Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Money Mindset Hub podcast. I'm your host, Carla Townsend, and I'm a money mindset and success coach for female entrepreneurs who are ready to eliminate their money blocks and monetize their genius. And today I have a beautiful guest with me, Nicole Joy, who I had the pleasure of meeting, 18 months ago? 18 months.
It's been a while.
Yeah, 18 months ago, because we're in a container together. We're around the table together, and I talk about this all the time, but please put yourself in rooms with women who are doing big things and have big visions, because you cannot stop but elevate to that standard and beyond. So when we met 18 months ago, it has been a whirlwind for you, but I'm going to get you to explain all your story. But first of all, let me give you a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of what you wrote for me and a little bit of what I wrote. Okay.
Okay.
So Nicole is a speaking coach for female leaders and entrepreneurs. She can help you craft and deliver your signature talk so you can be the name that everyone remembers. Now, before she did all of that, though, she has done so much and had over 20 years experience. So let's just take it back a little bit, Nicole, to give them a bit of a understanding of, honestly, what haven't you done? So back when you were 18, you were acting and modeling for some of Australia's biggest brands and also internationally as well. In 2005, you won Miss World Queensland.
That still makes me laugh.
In 2008, you hosted a kids' TV show called Lab Rats. Amazing. In 2010, you launched a sleepwear label. In 2013 and 2014, you published 2 cookbooks, and then you became a mother, which has been the most profound evolution of you yet. And now here you are helping women to own their story and their voice and initiate the change and the impact that they want to see in the world. Like, what haven't you done, Nicole?
you know that phrase, jack of all trades, master of none? I feel like that's me. I've done a lot, yes. And listening back to it, whenever anyone else gives me an intro and I listen back to it, I'm like, oh, I really have done a lot.
You have done so much. But okay, can we first just go back to then? Go back to young Nicole.
Oh,
all right.
Young Nicole. So I want to give her a hug. I want to tell her to stop trying to get everyone's approval and that you don't need validation from others, that you don't need to change yourself to look like everyone else, particularly in that phase when I was doing a lot of acting and commercials and modeling. I put myself through hell. I really did. I put myself through hell. And I thought the only way that I could be successful was if I looked like the girls that I was losing out jobs to. So if I didn't have my curly hair, if I was a size 6 instead of a size 10, if I had double D boobs, I spent a lot of time looking at what other people were doing and how other people looked. And I thought if I could just look like that and be like that, then my whole life would change. And it's really funny because I chased so many different jobs, and some of them, when I got them, it didn't make a difference. Yet I still was on that pursuit of, but if I just get the next one, if I just get another one, if I just get the next one will be bigger. If I get a cup instead of a 3-page spread, or if I get a $10,000 job instead of a $5,000 job, that's going to be it. So if I could go back to little Nicole, I would give her the biggest cuddle, because I put myself through hell. I went through having an eating disorder. I spoke about that in the books when I launched. Funnily enough, I launched cookbooks, and then here I am talking about an eating disorder. I was the girl who would not eat properly for a week. Chicken breasts, broccoli, egg whites, torture myself at the gym. And then I'd get to the weekend and go, I'm fucking hungry. So then I would eat so much food, and then I'd make myself sick and do it all over again. And God, it makes me want to cry, because I can't believe I put myself through that for such a long time. And I feel like those patterns, though, if I'm not careful and if I don't continue that inner work, they resurface, maybe not with food, but they'll resurface on social media. I mean, we were talking about it before, like looking around at what everyone else is doing. Why aren't I doing that? If only I could make that much money, if only I launched a business that looked like that, then all my dreams would come true. Everything would be okay. So I have to be really careful. And I swear they call it work, because it is. You've got to keep working on yourself and reprogram those old ones that keep you stuck. Otherwise, they do show up in other areas of your life 10, 20, 30 years down the track. So I've changed a lot, but I have to also work very hard at not falling back into those patterns.
Yeah. And what do you do exactly when you notice those patterns start to creep back up? What do you do? What is your sort of go-to to be the pattern interrupter for yourself?
Such a good question. I feel like now the thought will be there, but I don't let that thought take me down the spiral anymore. I can see it. I recognize it. Whereas back then I had no idea. It would be like, I have a bad thought about myself. I believe the thought, and then I go acting according to that thought. Whereas now I'm like, that's cute, whatever. I might feel pain or be uncomfortable in the moment. I mean, emotional pain, not physical pain, or it may, a negative thought about yourself makes you feel a bit shitty about yourself, but I can pick it up and go, all right, we're going to turn that around now. We're going to reframe. Reframing is the most powerful mindset tool, I believe, that you can employ. And I know how to change my state really quickly, whether it's going outside in the sun, getting my feet on grass, barefoot on the grass, busting out to some 90s R&B, which I love to do, chatting to a friend, doing something. I've got a lot of things in my toolbox now to turn to without going down that spiral. So I want to make it really clear too, even if, and I think anyone that doesn't agree with this, they're full of shit, is that we all still have those thoughts. Just what we do with them when those thoughts pop up.
Oh, 100%. I absolutely back you on that. And it doesn't matter, I think, at what level of success you believe you're at or you think someone else is at. Everyone still has that inner critic. We have that inner critic, but it's there for a reason, because we're naturally wired to stay safe and stay familiar and stay in the known. And it's so every time you get to that edge, it's like your little inner critic, that inner voice is like, calm down, come back.
Yeah, come back. Don't jump off that cliff. That's not safe.
Exactly. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that every single person has those thoughts, but it is what you do with those thoughts and whether you let that spiral into a negative loop or whether you just take charge and go, no. I'm going to leave myself here and my mind is not going in that way because that way is not going to serve me. What is actually going to serve me right now? And hands down, reframing is the habit of all habits that you need to get on top of and get in the practice of, because it's a practice. Like,
exactly.
It's always changing depending on, who you speak to or what study you read. But like, let's say 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day.
Yes.
Well, what if like 10,000 of them are shitty thoughts? You need to be in the habit of reframing them all the time. Then they don't have any power over you and they don't have any power over your emotions and then your actions or inactions or reactions. Yes. Let's be honest.
Yes.
There's nothing there. So what would you notice then talking about the habits? Because look, you're massive on confidence. You essentially teach people how to be confident so they can clearly articulate what it is that they want to say and tell their story. So let's go into confidence there. But what do you think are some of the biggest beliefs that come about when you're on your way to build confidence? Like, what do you think pops up that is stopping you from actually owning your confidence?
The biggest one that I get from the girls, ladies, women, obviously, that I work with, I don't know enough. It's that imposter syndrome. I don't know enough. I'm not qualified enough. Who am I speaking about this? I've been there for sure. And I had moments of it when I really transitioned now into a speaking coach. Who am I to be a speaking coach? I haven't been a professional speaker for long, but I remember someone going, what do you mean you haven't been a speaker? You've literally been on cameras. You've been on stages. You've spoken in front of hundreds of people. But because I wasn't in the traditional corporate keynote speaking, which if you weren't across that, you wouldn't know what that is anyway. If you see someone up on a stage with a microphone, you're like, they're a speaker. So I've essentially been doing this for 20 years. But what kind of took me a bit to get over this hump and really fully own what I'm doing right now is I'm not qualified enough. But one of the biggest things that you can tell yourself and keep reframing when you hear that pop up is you don't need to know it all to help the people that you most want to help. You only need to be a few steps in front of them. Do I know every single thing about technically using your voice? No, I do not. But I know that is important to a degree, but what helps women who don't feel confident to then get up on a stage to speak and share their story is to have someone in their corner that believes in them. And I believe in every single one of the women that I work with, and I cannot wait until I see them up on stage. I've got women now that have never thought in a million years. Some of them have never even spoken in front of people in a before. And next week, they're going to get up on a stage in front of nearly 100 women to deliver their signature talk. And I know they didn't come to me because I'm the most technically qualified voice coach. They came to me because I know how to get the best out of them. So having someone in your corner, and I have a framework, the 5 C's of confidence, and connection is one of them. Who are you connected with that will bring out the best? I really honestly believe, of course, I can teach you how to write the script and what stories will go best on stage and all of that. Obviously, there's that part of it as well. But it's having someone there in your corner to help you realize that you don't need to know it all and that your story matters.
Yeah.
Your story, and I say this all the time, your story has the power to change someone's life. The message in it, we've all got a different story. And that's why there's so much room for all of us. How many different business coaches are there on Instagram, on how many fitness coaches or even speakers? There's room for all of us because some of us, and let's be honest, no one's reinventing the wheel. We're all kind of saying the same shit. But the way that you say it is going to help it land with the people that need to hear it. Like there are people that will listen to me and be like, oh my God, she's my people. I'm working with her. Other people will be like, she's not vibe. And that's fine because I'm not here for everybody. Like you're not here for everyone. No one's here for everybody.
And let's be honest, rejection's a part of it, right? Like,
hello, 20 years in the modeling industry. I know a thing or two about rejection. I know a thing or two about walking in going, oh, you're not tall enough. Boobs aren't big enough. We want a blonde. No, we want a redhead. No, we want someone short. No, we want someone tall. Like I know a thing or two about rejection. But yeah, going back to that point of, I really think someone in your corner that believes in you and you start to fully embrace and accept my story can make a difference. That's like 80% of the job done.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that too with your story, right? Because I totally agree that I don't know enough. Who's going to listen to me? The imposter syndrome. Again, it's something that pretty much at every stage of the journey, it's going to come up because it means you're at a new edge. That's the way I look at it.
Yes. Yes.
But then too, have you found, and I know that this was for me, this was my story and I caught it and I realized that I didn't have like a ground zero, like a rock bottom turnaround.
Oh, yes.
Nothing.
Story envy.
And that's it, right? I was just like,
envy.
Damn. Like I was never rock bottom. I was always someone who, okay, so my own journey, I suppose, speaking about money mindset and talking about money is because literally that's the thing that my friends and family would be like, how do you manage your money? Because they're seeing what's happening behind in my real life, right? They're seeing what's happened. They're like, well, we know you went from like this 12 square house. Now you and your husband are in this massive house that's 3 times the size. And you've had 3 children and you've pretty much been on one income that whole time because your husband had 2 incidents, so he could have worked. Like, how did you go from 12 square house, raising a family of 3 kids back to back into $1 million home, and then you just quit your job and now you're doing this? Like, what the?
Give me your secrets, please, Carla.
And then, but even saying that out loud sounds ridiculous. It's like,
yeah, I was like, hello, can we just stop and acknowledge that, please?
No, but like,
it's amazing.
But that's the thing, like people seeing all that in the background before I even started. I was already 2 kids deep when I started the business, right? But I kept saying, I don't have a rock bottom story here. Like I've always learnt how to manage money and be good with money. But then it was like, oh no, hang on. Now I realize the living week to week in this, my second maternity leave. That was when I suppose that was like my rock bottom without being like
yes. Yeah.
But that was my feeling of a rock bottom. So I talk about there's different archetypes, your money archetypes. Yes. I'm an accumulator. I'm pretty sure you did the quiz, but I'm an accumulator. So it's like I need lots of money there to feel safe. Now, me living week to week as someone who the accumulator is also known as the inner banker, but then being put in pressure of like living week to week, it's like that to me was like scarcity, lack. Like that is fear, right? So that was my equivalent of a rock bottom. But I wasn't like from foster families or had a drug addiction and then turned everything around. Do you know what I mean? There was a time when I thought, who's going to listen to me? Privileged white woman from Australia.
Yeah.
Who I didn't have a rock bottom story. So who the hell's going to listen to me? Even though we all have a story, right?
And I can guarantee, how many people do you know that could relate to this worldwide of living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know.
Like a lot of people can relate to that. And I get it a lot. I don't have a story. I'm like you. I don't have a rock bottom story either. Like I just shared about having an eating disorder and going through all of that kind of stuff. But yes, again, a white woman from Australia. But the thing is, the story doesn't have to be big, heartbreaking, tragic, harrowing, or on the opposite end, award-winning, gold medal winning, Mount Everest climbing, cancer surviving either. It doesn't have to be that to impact someone. Because when you tap into the fundamentals of that story and you can go back to that part of your life and clearly communicate that with people, what it was like to be, what you felt, what you saw, what you heard, people will relate to that. It doesn't have to be, because it's those big, huge transformational stories are incredible. Like there's no taking away from that. But often if you have a 1 in a million story, only 1 in a million people are going to relate to it, right? But if you can share that part of your story, the turning point, whatever it is that you think may not be like enough, there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be able to relate to it. So I think that's the number one thing when it comes to story. A lot of people go, I don't have a story. I'm like, I'll sit down with me for an hour and I'll figure out your story. Like you have a story. We've all got a story. So I think it's really important not to think that your story has to be huge, has to be massively transformational to make a difference in someone's life. Like a few words. If I get people to go, think of your favorite teacher, high school or primary school, either or. Can you remember a time where they said something to you, one sentence even, or a couple of words to you that really impacted the way that you continued then to show up at school or affected decisions you made? A few words spoken with authenticity literally changed the direction of someone's life as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful point as well, just to take the pressure off yourself too, because you're right, never taking away from those stories. I find them so inspiring and I'm always like, how did this person get from here to there? Like, I want to know the story. But I think you're right at the same time that everybody has a story. There's no ranking of a story. It's very individual.
No, it's very individual. And it's not a story competition, you know. I'm seeing it a lot on social media. It's like a tragedy competition. Like, what's worse? What's worse? Well, if you're speaking about this, you should be speaking up about this. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's all relative, right? If you're a homeless person, you're on the Gold Coast, you don't know when you're next going to eat, you can't be investing a lot of time and energy into what's happening overseas right now. That doesn't mean you're a shit person with no compassion and you don't care, but you're living your story right now and you can't even get through the day. You don't know when you're going to feed your kids. It's all relative, you know. There's so much shit happening everywhere, and some would argue that it's always been like that. It's just that we're hyper aware of it now, right?
Yeah.
It's soon now feeds all the time. I heard, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but what we see in a day is equivalent to what people used to see in like 10 years or something in terms of information that we get, because it's everywhere now. Yeah. Everywhere. So we can start to go, oh, well, I don't matter because this is happening and maybe I should not worry about what I need to do because this is more important. And it's not to say that you can't do both, but I just think people need to be really careful about comparing their lives to what's happening everywhere else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I think in the world of social media, look, it's a blessing and it's a curse. And I think you've got to use a real discernment. And if you're finding that you're being swayed a lot, your discernment is probably taking a hit. So you probably need to disconnect, if anything.
Yes.
If you're not finding clarity or direction, or you're getting a bit lost and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, because let's be real, they're just feelings and emotions and they're fleeting and you can choose to change them. But the more that you're tapping into environments, say social media, and you're seeing all these things, or you're watching the news at night, or you're still engaging in conversations that are not really lighting you up, the more that you can have standards around that and discern whether that's for you or not for you, and tap out, disconnect, the better off I think that your life will be. And the more that you will stop comparing, and you'll not worry about everyone else's race and just chase your own, you know? So
yes,
let's go into your speaking gig that's coming up though. Your event, sorry, I should say. Can we please talk about that? Talk about your event that's coming up.
I wish you were closer. I wish you were closer so you could come along. But I have big visions for this. I really do see this going Australia-wide and beyond. So She Speaks, the tagline for She Speaks is TED Talks meets Taylor Swift. So it's all the inspiration that you get from a TED Talk session, but with a high energy concert vibe. So think red carpet arrival, pumping tunes, an epic soundtrack, photos, a welcome drink, all of the things. But the speakers are a little bit different. So normally when you go to events like this, you know the speakers, they are they're considered speakers. They might have large profiles, all the things. The speakers for these are actually the women that have gone through my Take the Stage program, where we spend 8 weeks together crafting their signature talk. So some of these women have never spoken in front of a room before. I remember one of the beautiful ladies, when she joined, I was so surprised and happy that she joined, but I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know that speaking was something that she wanted to do. I was like, what? Oh my God, she's in. And she has just been she's incredible. A mum of 4, and she's getting up there delivering her talk. And all of these women have very different stories. Again, if you were to look at them surface level, a couple of them are like you and me in that there's no big, huge rock bottom tragic transformation. A couple of them do, but they're up there owning their story. And I'm so excited to put the event together because I don't think there is anything like it. You can do speaking courses and trainings, but a lot of the times there's nowhere for you to then put into practice what you just did. So I had Take the Stage was always going to be the program, but I held off because I was like, there's something missing. And then it just kind of dropped in one day. This is what you need to do with the women. You need to have an event where they can then go and speak. So I've got one of the girls is flying up from Newcastle. So it's definitely, there's girls not just on the Gold Coast, which is great. And it's also doubling as a networking event. So Gold Coast local business owners. I've got some really cool games. There's going to be a dance break, of course, because anyone that follows me knows that I love my dancing. So we're going to have a bit of a dance break. We're going to connect with people and walk away with some incredible connections. And I see that, like, the spirit, the energy of this business is so much bigger than me.
Yeah.
It's so much bigger than me because I believe that there is a confident speaker within all of us. You just need to learn how to tell your story, because speaking with confidence is not a personality trait that you're either born with or not. It's a skill. It's a skill that anybody can learn. And no one ever said, geez, I wish I didn't learn public speaking. And no one is ever going to say that, because once you learn that skill, you are going to be able to, if you want to be a speaker, it's not just for speaker per se, but you will be able to take the stage with confidence. You can get in front of your next Instagram reel or talk to stories, talk to camera with confidence. You'll speak up in a board meeting. You might have more courage to have those hard conversations in your intimate relationship. Speaking confidently, it's not just a one-off thing. It is a skill that has a lifetime return on investment. And it's my mission to help as many women as I can do that. If you're a business owner, I think it's a no-brainer. If you don't have the confidence to confidently stand on stage and talk about you and your business, I'd be like, you got to do something about that. The amount of business owners that I've heard say, oh my God, I can never do what you do. There's just no way. I know it's holding you back. I can't do it. Like, you can, because I wasn't born like this. I've had, like you said, 2 decades worth of experience. And I know with the right person in your corner, every single person can get up there and absolutely nail it.
Yeah. 100%. Like confidence is not something you're born with. Absolutely. Because otherwise we'd all be confident, right?
Yes.
Nicole, I get that. Like I wasn't born like that. My God, 9 years ago, I couldn't even speak at my own wedding to say thank you to my own guests. I was terrified to walk out holding my dad's arm, to walk down the aisle, terrified that everyone would look at me, terrified. And then fast forward, here we are.
Here we are on your own podcast.
I've got a podcast. Took me 12 months to get this podcast out from when I had the idea. That's how long I sat on it for. But now 2.5 years later, like here we are, you know? So doing this. And I know I said to you, I've got a speaking gig coming up, my first in-person speaking gig. I've obviously done it online in several different programs and things. And I've been on podcasts and that's all amazing. But yeah, actually doing it in person for the first time is like a little bit daunting, but I'm also not worried because you feel confidence, and confidence is a skill. It's just something that you learn. And this is from my own, but I love your perspective as well. From my perspective, confidence comes from taking unconfident, scary as hell action.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
What else would you say would take it? Because I know you've got your 5 C's for confidence. So what are they?
I say all confidence is courage plus consistency. It's consistently having the courage to do the things that scare you. Because here's the thing, you only have to do this thing that scares you for the first time once. Once you've done it once, you've built evidence that you can in fact do it, and then you'll do it again. It'll probably still be scary the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th time, but it gets less scary. So I say courage plus consistency equals confidence. And then the 3 things, the 3 C's that will help you take those courageous, consistent actions are clarity, knowing exactly where you want to go. It's really easy to work towards a plan. Like if I said to someone that's not, let's say, confident about speaking, if I went, you need to speak in front of 200 people tomorrow, they'd be like, oh, what the fuck? Like that's going to scare the shit out of them. But if I say, 8 weeks time, you're going to be speaking in front of 200 people. I'm going to help you for 60 minutes each week. And we have a plan. And this is what we're going to do. It may still scare them, but there's a plan there. That clarity is going to allow you to take that courageous step. Clarity. We've spoken a little bit about connection before. Who is it that you are connected to when you need it most? Who's in your support crew? Who can you rely on? And all the 2 parts of connection is your connection to yourself and connection to others. So we've spoken about connection to others, but your connection to self in those moments where your brain tells you that you're not good enough and you don't know enough. What do you do? What's your toolbox look like? Do you have your reframes? Do you have your woo-woo music? Do you need to dance? Do you have your playlist to shift your state? So connection to yourself and to others is super important. And then the last one is control. Like what do you have in your control? If you had a speaking gig, the thing in your control is being prepared, is practicing. I tell my clients all the time, practice with purpose and practice under pressure. Practicing with purpose looks like actually and I'd say this to you for your speaking gig, practice to the wall, talk to the wall as if you were on stage. I see a lot of people sometimes like they get a piece of paper with their notes and they're like, I'm like, that's not practicing. You don't practice reading because you don't want to get up on stage and sound robot, right? You want to practice. And then the next thing I would say to you to do is record yourself, because something happens when you press record. Even if no one's watching per se, you've pressed record. It adds that extra layer of pressure. So practicing is unbelievable. Practicing with pressure is a big one. What's his name? I just went blank. And Michael McQueen. He's arguably one of Australia's most prominent keynote speakers. I think he's given like 3,000 keynotes. He's been doing it for 20-something years. And I heard in a podcast recently, for a new 15-minute keynote, he practices between 150 and 200 hours. And that's Australia's best, right? That's Australia's best.
No pressure.
And I get it too. Yeah, no pressure. And this is why when people go and they say, I get this a lot, oh, God, you're so natural up on stage. I've practiced so much. I practice in the shower, I practice to the wall, I practice to the camera, I practice in the car. For something to look effortless, you need to put the effort in.
Yeah. Can we say that again, please?
Yes. For something to look effortless, you need to put the effort in. That effortlessness, that natural ability comes from the reps that you put in. It comes from those daily, courageous, consistent steps that we take. So control is a huge one. Particularly, I know that's quite specific in regards to like if you were to be on stage, but then let's say you're walking into a networking event by yourself. What is in my control? Okay, I can control what I wear. I'm going to wear something that I feel comfortable and amazing in. I can control how I prep for the night. Am I listening to my favorite tunes on the way in? I can practice some opening lines, conversation starters before I go so that when people approach me, I'm not just going to go blank. There's always things that you can do. You can't control anyone else. So I think it's simple. Consistency equals confidence, and clarity, connection, and control will help you get there.
Yeah. I love that. I think you nailed it. And everything you just said then, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I talk to myself a lot. I don't know if you used to say this, but my mum used to say this.
Yeah.
Okay, talking to yourself is like the first time that you're crazy. And I'm like, I think we're all a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
I think everyone's
100%.
a little bit crazy, especially if you're an entrepreneur and, you're wanting to speak and things like that. You have to rehearse this. And Nicole, I don't know if I told you this story, but I was walking around my house mentally rehearsing. I was mentally rehearsing, but I was also talking out loud, rehearsing like my TED Talk. Because I hadn't had this event I hadn't even done an in-person speaking event yet. And I was just like, what's going to terrify the hell out of me? This is at the start of the year. What's going to terrify the hell out of me? What's my next big goal? And I was like, oh, you know what? It's to be on stage. I know it. And so I started walking around the house, rehearsing my TED Talk. And then the very next day, the invitation came in to talk on stage. And I just went,
who's powerful manifesting?
Someone is always listening to me because I always mentally rehearse. And I feel like, honestly, it's one of the tools is just rehearse because it shifts something in you. And you might feel this too, but when you're practicing, it's already done. Like you're already picturing yourself there and you're delivering it and it's done. And in your brain, so here we nerd out for a second, but your brain actually doesn't know the difference of whether it's mentally rehearsed or whether it's actually already happened. So
Exactly.
Isn't it? It's crazy. So whenever anybody hears like, okay, you want to manifest something, well, you've got to act as if it's already done. And they're like, well, how am I supposed to do that if it actually hasn't happened? Mental rehearsal, because your brain doesn't know. And then that is when you are shifting your internal state and your energetics to feel as if like it's literally already done. You've tricked your brain. And then that's when these invitations come in. And that's when the more that you keep doing it, the more confident you feel in it. Like, well, of course I'm a speaker because I've done this 1,000 times in my head. Right?
Yeah. You're giving your brain evidence to support the fact that I can in fact do this because I've done it. I have the most vivid visualization that ever since I clicked into and really owned and pivoted towards speaking coach for leaders and entrepreneurs. I can see myself, I'm on stage, I'm in a white suit with my red pumps, and I walk up, and it's like a stage where you walk up the stairs and then you've got the middle section, but then I'm butchering this explanation. I can see it so clearly in my head. It's like walking up this big stage, the stairs to the big stage. There's these big wings. I'm on this big black shiny stage, and I'm in this massive auditorium, like 1,000 people. And it just gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. And every single morning and night, I close my eyes and I see myself from that point of view. Often in visualizations, what helps me make it feel more powerful, and that's the key thing to manifesting, right? You have to feel it, is I don't look at it from a bird's eye view like I'm watching a movie of myself. I put myself in that position. So all I can see is actually the stairs as I walk up, and I look out and the lights are in my eyes, and there's 5,000 people in front of me. And I just go, it's done. Done it. That's where I'm headed. And it's constantly giving gratitude for that. And I know we spoke about it off air per se, but that's what keeps me going when I start to wobble a little bit. If I wobble, I'm like, this is why you're doing this. And I honestly believe, I really do believe She Speaks is bigger than me.
Yeah.
I kind of take myself out of it and go, but it's not about you. Just get up there. This is for Lucia. This is for the next generation. And I wrote I don't know if you call it a poem, it's just a few lines on an Instagram reel, oh no, it's probably a year ago. I was going to say a few months. It was about a year ago. And I say, if we don't stand up and own our stories and share our voice, our girls will learn to suppress theirs. If we don't go after our dreams, our girls won't either. And it's like, this is a responsibility women of this generation have, is to stand up and speak up so that our girls can see how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than me. I don't have a choice. This is my soul's work. And it's like, I have to do this. So sometimes what helps me get out of my own way is like, just move over, Nicole. This is way bigger than you. This is for Lucia. This is for all the girls out there. Just keep going. and I tap into that really vivid visualization. And I'm like, all right, giddy up. Let's go.
I love that. I feel like visualization is just one of those things, like it can be often overlooked, as in like, oh yeah, okay, but I want to actually do the thing. But I think visualizing is a way that you almost tap into your feminine because you're receiving that in that moment. Like it's done and your mind is allowing you to actually receive it like it is done. It's a memory. And I do exactly the same thing as you. I visualize as if I'm just looking through my own eyes. And what is amazing though, Nicole, is so far to date, everything that I always wanted and everything that I always visualized in my head or mentally rehearsed is done.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And now I'm like, what's next? And it's so fun, like those different practices. And I love what you said too, because your mission is bigger than you. And I think for everyone listening too, your mission is so much bigger than you, or you wouldn't have that voice in your head that's like, no, you need to do this. That your intuition wouldn't have guided you on this path to entrepreneurship, to open up and share your gifts with the world if it wasn't actually meant for you. Because we don't have the same ideas and desires and gifts and purpose and all of that. We don't. Where we get confused sometimes is we lack the clarity, and like we're talking about, you look here, there, and everywhere, like, what should I do? And try and get the answers outside of yourself. But the answer's always within you. It's in the essence of who you are. And when you start to look more inwardly, that's when you find the answers. And it is always so much bigger than you. So I think it's beautiful that you said that whenever you feel like you're getting in your own way, you just think like, Nicole, step aside. This is bigger than you. And I think that's a beautiful reminder for all of us is what you are creating. Your business is so much bigger than you. So why let the procrastination and why let the overwhelmed and the overthinking and all of that stop such a beautiful mission that's here to bloom? It's here to be created and rippled throughout the world and to impact generations to come. And that's your legacy. At the end of the day, what you're building is your legacy. And I love that it's for generations to come too. I mean, very similar to mine. That's how I see it. I want this work to go into schools. I want to change the way that everything is because kids don't know about money. They think it's outside of themselves. And I don't want our children, our children's children, future generations to have to get to their 30s to then find themselves and have to do all the unlearning and reconditioning of everything. We don't need to do that.
Yeah. Amen. Let's just change the entire education system, shall we?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yes, if everyone listening, Nicole used to be a teacher. So no, that's
I used to be a teacher, and I would absolutely put my hand up to change the education system. My goodness, yes.
But yeah, I think that's beautiful. So I just want to ask you one last thing. What is one piece of advice then or mantra that has been really instrumental in your journey that you want to leave with everyone?
Oh,
1 or 10, you take your pick.
But I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. No, I like the challenge of one. It's funny because I always tell my clients, I'm like, if your audience could walk away remembering one thing from your talk, what would it be? I think it has to be, you don't need to know everything to help the people that you most need to help. There are people out there literally waiting to hear the message come from you, to come out of your mouth before they will take action. Instead of trying to appeal to the masses, focus on connecting with those people.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
don't water down your message either, right? Like it's essentially what you're saying is
No.
you're enough. Your story is enough. Don't water it down because there are people out there literally waiting for you to share it with them. And that story that you overthink or that you think isn't good enough or needs to be tweaked or it isn't a rock bottom to, this massive transformation, you overthink that, but that is the very thing that will change their life and the trajectory of their life, the actions that they're about to take or not take. You could be that ripple effect. You just don't know that yet. And you never will if you don't put it out there, right?
100%. I know a lot of women listening to this will be entrepreneurs. And a lot of the women that I speak to will always say, I just want to help people. I just want to help people. You cannot help people and make the impact that you want to make if you cannot confidently communicate your story and your message. You just can't. You can't hide behind social media posts and not share your voice, own your story, share your story. You just can't. So get out of the way. Remember the legacy that you're leaving behind is bigger than you, and know that whatever position you're in at the moment and all the experiences that have brought you to where you are now is the perfect amount, the perfect recipe to help your people. You don't need any more.
Yeah. Well, with that, I suppose that's a perfect note to finish on. And also, just for everyone listening, Nicole has a speaker guide that I'm going to put in the show notes as well. So you can download that and get some more of her wisdom because, oh my God, just look out. Look out, Nicole. I love your events. Can you please bring it to Melbourne? Because
it's coming, baby. It's coming.
We need that
coming.
Here.
It's coming. It's coming. Don't you worry.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I've loved it. Love catching up again.
My pleasure. Me too. It's been too long.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I would absolutely love it if you could please leave me a 5-star review and let me know your thoughts. Remember, everything you desire and deserve is just on the other side of your own resistance. So take that next step.